Hi everyone, Mr. Giles here. You know that strategic overview episode I was talking about? Well, welcome to that episode. So the date is the 18th of September, which is just roughly where I left off the second part of this series. And just for reference, guys, I'm not obviously going to be playing. None of the other players are here. And this is simply to sort of overview our situation, sort of look at things, have a general talk about strategy and stuff. The other thing we should also talk about is the fact that this has not occurred anywhere near when this game actually happened. I'm actually recording this on, the 23rd of January, which this game was probably recorded about 2 weeks ago now. So I'm commentating this now for a strategic overview which happened 3 weeks ago. So that makes real sense. So we'll start obviously off with the Soviet Union as the country I'm playing. Well, me and Vovek. So in the south, well, you kind of know the situation down here. I'm sort of, at this point in the game, maintaining a deep front. My troops in reserve are sort of quite disorganised. But this is not crisis point, essentially. I have yet to use any divisions. Don't worry, I'll do some later. But yeah, I make some really stupid moves later, but never mind about that. At the moment, I'm still holding stuff. Like this is not too bad. Like HMS is just fielding infantry though, so the south is relatively fine. I'll put it like that. I'm holding. Well, I'm not holding. I'm being pushed back, but gradually. In the middle, however, in the sort of Belarusian front, Vovek's in real trouble. They obviously lost a division here, one armoured division, shame. And we're being pushed out of Riga at the moment. But Vovek is kind of holding, but his encirclements, you can see, are about to happen. These troops have relatively no organisation at all. And with these troops, we're all just going to be overrun by HMS's mobile units. I am going to cheat in this episode because I'd like to show you all everything, which is going to be a bit weird. So that's kind of our situation right now. This is armour which is really hurting us. We just cannot retreat fast enough. Vovek's doing his best, but he's being outplayed really. I mean, you can't really blame him. HMS is great. And in terms of our production at this point, we're building obviously divisions to replace the ones we've lost. A few fighters. Fighters actually prove out to be pretty useless. Because if you say the air war, very static, nothing's actually happening at all. In the far north, HMS is pushing us. We should definitely stop him here though. With the land fort, we've got a river line, we've got everything. We're not going to be pushed back here. The far east, nothing's happening. Okay, so that's sort of the US side done. Now let's go on to Germany. I mean, this is HMS. Okay, so we're looking at pretty formidable stuff right now, or at least we should be. We'll notice my immediate thing. What I've noticed is he's upgrading a few units. Anti-tank, tank destroyer. So this is interesting. He's decided to go for very powerful armored units. These are incredibly strong. That's going to have a massive penetration value. It's going to have a very good soft attack value due to its artillery brigade attached there. Well, his western garrison. This is my first impression. His western garrison is immensely weak. This is essentially non-existent, this garrison. I mean, there's a few divisions here and there. But the funny thing is he's so confident that they won't be doing anything. Don't be fooled by this AI. This is not an AI. That's only because I've tag switched. These divisions, he's pulling his armor divisions out, and even some of his infantry divisions out, because he knows that at this point in the game that the Allies aren't doing anything. In fact, what it looks a little bit like is he's moving his divisions up to, well, Gothenburg. It almost looks like he's preparing for an invasion. We check out his navy. 5 units. It's a bit annoying. These are his. He's got enough transports to do it. But he has nothing really very significant. These are all his U-boats. We all know what he does with U-boats. Actually, that's the point. Let's look at his U-boat campaign. Right now, nothing's happening. He's not doing convoy raiding right now. which is interesting because he does like extensively. His garrison in the south of France is non-existent. This is just he has nothing in the west. He has nothing in the west at all. And at this point, this would be ideal, absolutely ideal for Allied intervention. The British have the troops to at least harass HMS, but they don't try. That's the problem. They're not going to try. We look at his infantry divisions. They have a very similar composition to our own, actually, which is 3 Int, 1 Art, 1 AT. And we see his, well, these are one of his starting panzers, actually. He's not gone over the top with mobile forces. These are sort of, yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. These armoured car units, because we don't allow armour to be built, these armoured cars are sort of becoming a substitute for that, with quite a high penetration value and quite a high armour value. But they also have, of course, the speed that the armour needs. He does have some armour up front. Most of which appears to be the starting armour combined in various formations. He has got some heavy armour and stuff. So these units are pretty formidable. These 6-7 attack defense is pretty. Sorry, defense attack is pretty strong. But his force isn't totally overwhelming. He's just using it very effectively. He has a lot of infantry, really. It's the infantry to make sure his front isn't pushed. You know, is sort of stable enough units to hold the front. But not enough, but enough armour to also perform the mobile, his mobile actions really he does. One thing that strikes me immediately is that he's not using his air force. Well, this has really been ripped up here. Yeah, his air force is non-existent. If we compare I wouldn't be surprised if Italy has a stronger air force. So he's the 945 Brigade, which is formidable. Absolutely formidable. But what I was saying is his armour units, his actual armoured units, are very minimal. So he's not really relying on his armour to give him mobility. It's his armoured car and the motorised, which really kills us. His infantry is obviously a substantial bulk of that of his total brigades. And he's just doing it very well. He's using his infantry to attack, and then he's just using his mobile units to exploit the gap. Italy has quite a substantial force, and so does Japan. Italy very infantry based, Japan very infantry based, both fielding practically no armoured divisions or motorised divisions. But what I meant to check is his navy. His navy. He's 43 units, 7 battle cruisers. He has the capacity to launch an invasion if he wants it, but he hasn't really got the forces. Britain's home garrison, as I've discussed before, I think, is quite strong at this point. So I would doubt it that it would be likely for his invasion to succeed, but 7 battle cruisers is enough to cover his fleet if he's going to launch it. He's lost quite a lot of his heavy cruisers, and he's lost quite a lot of destroyers as well by the looks of it. Yeah. No, he's got not enough screens to cover his battle cruisers though, so that's interesting. 26 submarines though, that's where the killer blow is going to come from. That's formidable. No getting around that fact. Well, Italy's still got his 4 starting battleships, etc, etc. This is what I want to look at. Yeah, Italy has a larger air force than Germany. In fact, Japan has a larger air force than Germany. He really has not built much air force at all, so he's not really relying on his air capacities at all, his air weapons at all. Well, we'll move on, I think, because we've sort of seen. Oh, well, let's look a little bit at his production. What's he building? Panzers. Wow. We know what his plan is then. A lot of panzers, and a lot of submarines, and a lot of heavy capitals. I'm interested though, because he's building a lot of capitals, whilst it sort of seems he doesn't really have the screens to cover them, so, or at least I can't find them anywhere. They want a statistics screen. So that's quite interesting. He's got 424 manpower and 50 gain per month. That's what we've got to attrition him down. So at this point in the game, it's going to be impossible, really, to beat him like that. I mean, not worth not trying, but certainly, well, yeah. It's going to be difficult. So now we'll check out Italy. This is Mush, by the way. Mush has played this game very well as well. Well, he seems to be... Obviously, HMS has said to him he doesn't want Italian support because he's not getting any. But yeah, this is a fairly strong setup, to be honest. It's very defensive for a start. He's got a very strong home garrison with his fleet. Where's his fleet? Down here. This is his fleet. I think, to be honest, the AI has had a little bit of a fiddle here, because I don't believe that maybe he's merging that fleet or something, but that's split up in a strange way, so I don't really believe that that's... This is a massive weapon. 5 wings of close air support. That's a weapon designed to sink enemy ships. He's got his defence against the Royal Navy very set up, and it is, as I'm trying to do in my Italy Let's Play at the moment, it's very based around naval aviation. So he's got his interceptors and stuff on standby and his close air support. Yeah, his naval bombers, more close air support and stuff. His Sicily garrison is ridiculously strong. He's got nothing in. Can't tell what's going on here. It looks like they've just pulled out of Sardinia for some reason. He's doing a port strike, undoubtedly. Yeah. His defence of Gibraltar is relatively... Well, it's not weak, but it's not exactly the strongest unit, or strongest thing you could do. I mean, there's a lot of elites that's going to do well in the mountainous terrain around Gibraltar, particularly around here. But it's not... That could be easily overwhelmed, I think, if the Allies invaded in force. But again, we see Mush putting his units out. It's almost like the Axis are taking... Look at how weak their ports are. They're ridiculously weak. They've got... Well, the Spanish have left them abandoned, essentially. Spain doesn't have enough divisions to cover its ports anyway. Italy is pulling its divisions out. Germany is pulling its divisions out. And it's just ripe for assault. You know, maybe you're not going to win if you hold that front forever. But you are going to cause them trouble. You're going to distract them. You can see the Allies doing a very weird march across the desert. I'm thinking attrition and also waste of time. That's not going to achieve anything, to be honest, guys. With Gibraltar seized, you can't supply this except through the Suez, so you're exposing your supply lines massively to the Regia Marina and to HMS, which is not a good move. Also, they're also moving in massive clumps. I mean, like, if I saw this, I'd know exactly where their troops were. In fact, to be honest, if I was either player, I think I'd try and mess with them a bit. Deny them of their ports for a bit and just really screw them up. This would be funny. Oh no, there's been wiped out, that division already. So, Italy is doing well. 318 manpower, lots of air units. He's building Japanese landing crafts. He obviously hasn't researched them himself. Nothing particularly surprising in the research screen. This is, yeah, he's got a good setup here. This is very solid. 13th. Alex has added you to your friends list. I'll do that in a minute. We'll look at Britain. This is played by Morris. And my first reaction is, what on earth is he? Why, he's hundreds of divisions sitting in the UK, which I kind of suspected he would have had. As he seems to also have quite a lot of navies sitting. I think the AI has split these fleets up, to be honest. I don't think they're set up like that. So that's a bit annoying. He's got a lot of divisions, guys. A lot of divisions indeed. He's building a new corps in Ipswich. And I can't tell whether these strategic redeployments have been moves that were made in-game or done by the AI since. Anyway, but there's enough divisions here to cause some harm. I have a feeling most of his divisions are running across the desert right now for some strange reason. The US is launching an invasion of Minorca, which is very odd, considering it doesn't actually have a port, and Majorca is undefended. I would just attack Minorca, like, yeah, just do that. So this is a very weird move by the Allies, and he has quite a few forces sitting in North Africa, but his force is small overall. And I suspect the reason for that is this. Convoys, destroyers. I mean, this is just ridiculous, guys. I mean, he's building 4 divisions. He has no convoys. He's building 190. This is what HMS does to you, is the UK. He makes you focus so heavily on fighting his subs that the UK essentially stops being a viable power. Which is a shame, really, because like right now, like we desperately need allied support, but yet Morris isn't really trying to do anything, and that's partly facilitated by the fact he's got no units, because he's had to build so many convoys. Sorry, I'm fiddling with something. 1 second. Oh my god, I fixed it. I'm a genius. The dyslexic person fixed something. Right. Okay. So this is bad, really. This is not going to work. The other thing is his, yeah, definitely steel production. It's worrying. He's got a very low supply stockpile of steel, so that also means that his convoy wasn't being very effective. This is so naval heavy. Like, this is not going to win you the game, Morris. This is probably the problem right now. The Allies are focusing so heavily on their navies and fighting Mush's one division in America that they're not really trying to fight HMS. Like, if they brought the fight to him, then they would perhaps help us out a bit. But they're quite content just to sit at home, which is kind of what I suspected. Well, look at the Far East. He's trying to hold on to Singapore as a. I'm not going to deny him Singapore. Singapore is a pretty formidable obstacle, to be honest. 12. Well, that's a lot of units and a whole full fighter wing there. So very strong indeed. In India, what on earth are you doing, Morris? Why? It's just what are these garrisons? Like, yeah, they're ports, but for the IJN to land there, they're going to have to take Colombo, surely. So they should just be deployed at Colombo more than anything. These divisions would be far more helpful on the front line. And the other thing I noticed is he's not trying to cover the Burma Road. So undoubtedly, the infrastructure is being built in these provinces by Grizzly, and he's going to, I think it's Grizzly, and he's going to attack India from up here, and Morris has made no contingency for that. So poor performance there. He's just very static. He's not really trying to attack anywhere. Problem is, they just seem to be totally nullified. Yeah, the Allies. Right, so we sort of looked at the UK now. We'll look at Japan. Now the game, this sort of section ended with them just sort of worrying about garrisons and also the navy of the Japs navy anyway, which I can't really find. They were so worried about this navy. They seem to be talking about this navy all the time. Here it is. It's in Japan. Right, Morris. So you spent the whole game worrying about his fleet, which is in Japan. Yeah, I know fleets can move, Morris, but you need to do something right now. Like, you know how much trouble we are in, and you're not really doing anything to try and help us out. And your setup looks a little bit like that. His setup is so defensive. What is going on with this scrolling? Whoa, stop! Right, okay. His setup is so defensive that it doesn't really seem to have allowed for him to actually help us win. That's the problem. Yeah, it's just... Japan's setup is interesting. Obviously, Japan has left a garrison at home, stronger than normal. It's understandable in the multiplayer game. In the Pacific, well, he hasn't bothered trying to defend some islands. His rare materials are looking a bit worrying. And I would say, like, in general, this is not a bad setup, but it's also at the same time not a great setup. I can sort of understand the logic in not defending some islands. Some of them are pointless, and defending the Philippines like this. But he doesn't really he just seems to have a lot of troops missing, and I have a feeling they're about to attack. through the Burma Road, which if I look at his production, I undoubtedly see that he's building infrastructure because of that. And he's building a lot beyond his capacity. 545. Yeah, it's a bit of a joke. He's also been hurt quite a lot by convoy raiding, but unlike the Allies, doesn't seem to be quite so worried about it. He seems to be taking more of an aggressive approach, building sort of slightly more helpful stuff that will actually help him win. But Grizzly has a lot of units to sort of use these as anti-partisan units actually, so they're understandable. His overall force though does seem quite small. I would have hoped to have seen something larger. And where he is present, he's present in force, but that also means that he's completely absent everywhere else. So it's an interesting setup, this. Supplies are very low though, wherever they are. Understandable tax, understandable tech research. Not a bad setup. Well, he's invested much in upgrades though, so I wonder how old his troops are. No, they're not too bad. So that's Japan. Not really much is happening with Japan. It's still quite static in Asia, very static. In fact, that's kind of how I describe this game. From everywhere except the Soviet Union, everything is very static. I mean, it doesn't change very much. But well, he's learned. He's put something in First Special Service Force in Washington, so that's going to prevent much from doing anything in the future. His invasion force is in Fortuna. Ooh, interesting. And Fort Bragg. Very interesting. These are his Marine Corps, obviously. He's going to think, wow, that's a low officer ratio. He shouldn't be that low at all. That's worryingly low. Don't know if I totally... Cruiser fleet. Interesting. I don't really know what to make of this, guys. He's strong garrisons. Garm won't fall anytime soon. Again, it's not very static. I mean, I don't know where his army is. I mean, this is the US. He's just building carrier after carrier after carrier after carrier. It's not going to win you the war. That's going to win you the war against Japan. It's not going to win you the war against Germany. It's just all these three infantry divisions, you see, just seem to be a pretty standard garrison, to be honest. Something which, to be honest, he really needs to do more about. He has 14 Yard units here, but just the overall point I'm making about the Allies, none of them really seem to have any kind of force at all. It looked like most of their units are in North Africa, and most of those were Brazilian and Canadian. Yeah, see, look at this. Their total armies, both of them, are tiny because they've both spent so much time worrying about production, or the production of naval units and fighting and convoy war. None of them are really actually focused on fighting the real war. It's just interesting. I definitely disagree with this production. This is just totally unnecessary. The Allies should be gearing up for an invasion of Europe right now, not worrying at all about about Japan. Japan's not a massive threat to the US. It's not going to conquer them in a multiplayer game. But this officer ratio is despicable. It's absolutely unforgivable. Yeah, that's worrying too. He hasn't got motorised yet. That's very worrying indeed. He should be buying it from the UK though. So the US is not in a good situation really. It's got a defensive setup, like the UK has got a defensive setup. Neither of them can really do anything. They've both got the units too, but to do something in Europe, but they haven't got the units to live in everywhere. To be honest, if I was Morris, I'd withdraw everything from Africa. I mean, it's just pointless. You're not going to win a war there. And do something in Europe. I mean, you just have to. That's how you win. And I'd support that as the US. Send what I could over there. I mean, don't doubt me. Fighting Japan is important. It's not, it's not the. It's not unimportant fighting Japan. It's just you need to do something to stop the Axis from winning the game, and the Axis win when the Soviet Union surrenders. That's really when the Axis win, because then the Western Allies are stuck. This is just a very, very poor situation for the Allies. And I have to say, Grizzly is also doesn't seem to have a massive force either, but he doesn't really need to because he's coming up against some quite passive players by the looks of it. It's just very interesting a setup. I don't agree with this at all. It's like all these radar stations. Yeah, they help, but what? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, God, that's 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 carriers. I mean, seriously, you don't need that many. I don't know how many he's already got. Undoubtedly, it would be many. 9. So you've already got 18 carriers between you, and you're saying that's not enough to defeat Japan. No, I'm sorry, guys, but that's by far enough to defeat Japan. So that's kind of the strategic overview right now. I hope you guys enjoyed that. This might have sounded a little bit like a rant at the Western Allies, but to be honest, that's just kind of depicting the situation. Everything in Asia seems very static. I mean, it all seems to be sitting with garrisons and waiting for something to happen. Both sides, to an extent, are guilty of that, and both sides have the forces to do something decisive, but both choose not to. It's quite interesting. I could look at some of the minors, but I doubt you're very interested. I will look at Canada briefly, because Canada is sort of a sub-major. And this is the move I'm interested in. Look at how many units they're sending to South Africa. It's so obvious what their move is as well. And badly supplied, actually. Yeah, actually, that's a point I'd really like to check out, their supply. What is their supply? Terrible. Terry bad, their supply is. So this is more so why they're going to fail. So a lot of nations they can invite to the Allies too. Yeah, so this is not looking good for the Allies right now. The only Allies nation that seems to be holding up okay is, ironically, the Soviet Union. And we aren't holding up that great. We're clinging on by the edge of our teeth because the Allies are playing, mainly because the Allies are playing so passively. Well, thanks for watching this episode, guys. I hope you're interested. I'll give another strategic overview later to sort of show what's happening. But not right now. Thanks, guys. Bye. I'll see you next episode.